All right, now to our first conversation. The World Bank has highlighted that inefficient logistics significantly contributes to food insecurity in Africa. Challenges such as poor road infrastructure, inadequate storage facilities, and limited access to markets hinders the efficient distribution of goods, leading to increased post-harvest losses and the higher food prices. Yeah, addressing these logistical issues is crucial for improving food security and supporting the livelihoods of farmers across the continent. Well, joining us to discuss more, we have Sende Afolayan, as the co-founder and CEO, Whole 247. Join me right here in the studio. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm pleasure having you.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm getting so used to talking about higher prices at this point. It's almost becoming a part of me now, since we've been, battling, high inflation. And definitely, we've seen the whole subsidy removal and all of that impact logistics, getting the food to the consumer, at this point. Now, we're talking about rams today, ram prices. Those are high.
Very high.
At this point. The prices I don't think anybody's used to, at this point. So, talk to me about transportation, delivery problems, how that's, really impacting this food availability issue, that we're having.
Larry, impact everybody, even as of today, right? Because there's a lot of inefficiency in terms of the logistics and infrastructure, right? And
I'm sure you saw the traffic coming here.
Oh yeah, it took me 3 hours to get here, So part of the problem, right? And the truth is, it's cut across, right? Because these farmers don't have access, good road networks, where they can easily get their goods to the market on time. And even beyond this is the fact that there are a lot of, lack of visibility, right, across the entire value chain, where smallholders farmers, particularly the, perishables, they don't have access to good storage system, where some of these perishables, before they get to the market, over 40% gets spoiled.
But is this a Nigerian problem or an African problem? What is this what you're seeing in other African countries?
Oh yes, it cuts across. Especially, I think ours is a bit more complex because of the population. The size is huge, and which means this size is growing, and they need food to eat. So it's even though it's an African problem, but particularly Nigeria is a bit, prices continue to soar despite all of the interventions. But no matter how you produce this food, right, without efficient logistics, it's just the price will keep soaring.
Right, and talking about efficient logistics now, there's also that, we're seeing that, sending food around Africa, it takes longer if you're than the time when you're trying to send food to Europe.
Oh yeah,
and that's outside the continent. At this point, help us understand that.
I mean, you saw the World Bank report. That report is spot on. Without efficient logistics, we're going nowhere. And I was recently in the African CEO Forum in Abidjan, and at the center of the conversation is this after, where there not being enough integration, across multiple markets in terms of movement of goods, right? And that really, contribute to what we're seeing on the market.
Right, and talking about post-harvest losses, that's one that's been with us for the longest time, at this point. Are you seeing any improvements there? Do you think the farmers are, getting more creative, even with their limited resources in, stopping post-harvest losses, or what are you seeing?
Well, I mean, taking a platform, for instance, where we connect businesses to logistic assets such as trucks and warehouses, right? We've seen, improvements where, a lot of adoption is being done. Government too, they're doing enough, but we've not seen that level of investments, across the SMEs, and even beyond this, public-private partnership will have to play a very huge role in solving some of these issues.
Right, and we see that World Bank report, also speaks to fixing transport and delivery systems can help, solve food shortages. And I'm also thinking about security. Security is also a big one there.
Yeah. It is, without a doubt, right? We've seen, a lot of, government, intervention around security, but we see that if a lot of these issues can be solved, permanently.
Which one do we solve first? Security or?
Both. We have to do both, right? Because infrastructures is a big issue. And also, without the farmers going into the farm to plant, then he's not going to, this is one of the things that, but beyond this is the efficient movement of these goods. Are we getting the right quantity that is being produced to the buyers or the manufacturers or even you and I? The answer is no. A lot of it gets spoiled on the road, yes. Yeah.
Okay, when there's a problem, some people see opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
And we know, savvy investors are always looking at issues differently. And they find out ways to, solve the problem and make money, at the same time. Yeah. What opportunities are you seeing there?
A lot. Huge, right. Opportunities and gaps, they're, coin different, opposite sides, right? So what we've seen is that if the growing population, where we're having over 200 people, they need food, and they need it as at, now, right? And we've seen e-commerce, retail expanding, and at the base of this is logistics. Without it, some of these sectors that we've mentioned will not just happen overnight. And we've seen that if investors can really invest in some of these critical infrastructures that we're talking about and making it more efficient, because we've seen, even with data that we collect a very huge data, making sure all of these touch points, and that's basically why our 247 exists, to make sure that we aggregate all of these touch points and make it more smarter, more efficient, right? An investor can do a lot more by investing in this. Investment in logistics is like investing in national resilience, right? Because without it, people will go hungry.
Yeah, and talking about the processes, when it comes to and the value chain in the logistics industry, what role is technology playing? Are you seeing technology playing a major role right now? Is it looking more futuristic, than we're used to?
Oh yeah, I will give an example. Since we started, we've been able to, reduce the turnaround time by over 300%. How are we able to do this? By just coordinating the transportation and the warehousing. Right. Without this, because there are a lot of the critical touch points must be brought together and make it more smarter, more efficient. So we've seen a lot of more of adoption in terms of technology usage, and beyond this, imagine all of these warehouses being smarter, right? Having the right energy mix in terms of usage. It reduces, the price of food.
Right, and what are you seeing, going forward at this point? Because, we know the problems are there, we know the gaps are there, but you've talked about some of the opportunities and why investors, should be looking this way. What are you seeing, going forward? 2025, we're almost getting to the middle of it, at this point.
It's scary. In 2050, the urban population is projected to double, right? And which means a lot of people need this food, and they need it as at now in terms of making it more efficient. So where I see the sector going, especially if the government can, all of these governments, I'm not talking of the Nigerian government alone, across Africa, they can come together, make the integration happen. Everybody is talking about after. We're talking about 1.4 trillion or 1.2 trillion people population. Making it more efficient where we don't have to ship from Europe before we get access to some of this.
Do you think Africans like to buy from Africans?
I think they do, if given the opportunity. But I'll tell you, for you to move from here to Chad, there are a lot of bottlenecks. And that's why our 247 is there to just make sure that all of these touch points is more agile and more, flexible.
Right. Hopefully, in a couple of years, we're not talking about this same problem hopefully we've solved it because it seems to have been there for the longest time.
Yes.
But it was great having this conversation with you. Thank you so much, Sayinde Afolayan, as the co-founder and CEO of Hall 247.
Thank you so much.
For coming on today.
Oh, it's a pleasure having me.